Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us from Congrats from College Hill, the first of many virtual events this spring, and allow me to be one of the first to congratulate all of you on your acceptance to Hamilton College. My name is Connor McManus. I am an Assistant Dean of Admission here at Hamilton, and I'm joined by some amazing senior panelists who will be very excited to answer some of your questions. But first, I'm going to turn it over to Hamilton's Dean of Admission and Assistant Vice President of Enrollment, John McLaughlin.
Hey everyone, and congrats to the class of 2028. It is my pleasure and duty to welcome you all to the Hamilton community. I don't know about you, but I have been looking forward to this moment for some time, and I imagine that you have been looking forward to it as well. It's kind of weird in admissions. We get to know you first through your paper, through your application, and we like what we see, and we can't wait to get to know you better in the weeks and months ahead. For those of you already committed to Hamilton, woohoo! We can't wait to see you on the Hill. You're joining an incredible community of dreamers and doers. And for those of you that are still deciding, we really appreciate you taking this time to explore more and think about what life at Hamilton could have in store for you. Tonight's session is part of that, and this is just one part of the larger Celebrate Thyself month. We've got a series of virtual programs in store, and I want to remind you and invite you once again to our campus events, our Celebrate Thyself days on April 15th and April 22nd. We hope to see you in person soon. Also, if you haven't yet signed up for our Celebrate Thyself Admitted Student Network, please do and be active. It's a great way for you to connect with current Hamilton students, like some of the smiling faces here on camera, but also to connect with each other and get to know fellow members of the class of 2028. And 2028, you are an incredible group. And if you'll permit me, I want to brag a little bit on your behalf because I know you're too humble to do it yourself. You were chosen from one of the largest and most impressive applicant pools in our history, over 8,500 applications, and our acceptance rate of 13% marks one of the most selective years in our 212-year history here at Hamilton College. You come from all over the United States, all around the world, 45 states, 35 countries. 16% of you are among the first in your family to attend college. Looking at your academic accomplishments, we're blown away. Of those that are reporting testing, the ranges are an eye-watering 1480 to 1540 on the SAT and a 33 to a 35 on the ACT. Among you are artists and scientists, valedictorians, class presidents, and award-winning athletes and artists, and more. We are humbled by your accomplishments, and we are so excited by your potential. And at Hamilton, you're going to have the opportunity to maximize that potential. I have worked in various institutional settings, and I am continually impressed by the level of resources, support, and care that we provide to our students here at Hamilton. One of the things that we say a lot here is relationships matter, and they do. As a fairly new arrival myself, I've been so impressed with the warmth of this community and the way in which faculty and staff and students look out for one another, root for one another, and celebrate each other's successes. And so this is our moment, our chance, and our month to celebrate you. It's also your moment to celebrate what you've accomplished and think ahead to the future. And as you consider your next steps, we know how important it is to hear from current students. So we wanted to create this space, this opportunity for you to hear directly about the Hamilton experience from the people that know it best. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Connor, and we are going to get Celebrate Thyself underway. Congratulations and welcome to the class of 2028. Connor, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, John. As previously mentioned, we're joined tonight by some of our amazing senior admission fellows. They're excited to answer your questions about Hamilton and our community, and I'll turn it over to them to introduce themselves. So who wants to go first?
I can go first. Hi everyone, my name is Joanna or Joe. I am a senior here at Hamilton. My major is in government with a minor women and gender studies, and I'm originally from New York City. And I'll pop it to Bobin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bobin. I'm also from New York City, from Queens, just like Joe. And I'm an economics major and a women's and gender studies minor. And I'll pop to Sophia.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations on your acceptance. My name is Sophia. I am from East Lyme, Connecticut. I am an anthropology major with a minor in history. And I will pop it to Betsy.
Hi everyone, my name's Betsy. I'm a senior from Wallingford, Connecticut. I'm an environmental studies major and Spanish and education minors. And on campus, I run cross country and track, and I'm an orientation leader.
Awesome. Thank you all. I also want to shout out my colleague Rachel, Rachel Clary. She'll be in the chat Q&A section, filtering through some of your questions, bringing them to us, and also answering questions in the chat. So if you do have questions, make sure to plug those in there. But we do have some questions prepared that are frequently asked by students, and in fact, some of the questions that were asked on the registration form that we have to get us started. So the first question that we've got here tonight for our senior panelists is what drew you to Hamilton? And maybe if people want to talk a little bit about what was your college search process like, especially this time of year, choosing or the Hamilton process. And yeah, I'll send it back over to Betsy.
Yeah, so I went to a pretty small high school in my hometown and knew that, I wanted a school that was kind of a grown-up version of that. I wanted a really small community, a place where I really felt like the people on campus knew me. So my professors, my friends, coworkers, kind of people across the board. And I knew I wanted those friendly faces to be a part of my everyday life. And that's pretty much exactly what I found at Hamilton. I really feel like the people here know me, my professors, my friends, my coaches. And I also have really appreciated the open curriculum. I think that's, a big buzzword at Hamilton, but I think it means a lot. Just having the opportunity to craft your academic experience here. You still pick your major and your minors maybe, but you still have the chance to explore a lot of different areas that you might have otherwise not had the chance to if you had those general education requirements. So Hamilton checked a lot of boxes for me. And ultimately, going on my last month or two here, I couldn't be happier with that decision.
Yeah, I would sort of echo a lot of what Betsy said. I was initially drawn to the small community here, but also was not completely limited to that within my college search process. I definitely had a range of schools, and I was really interested initially in the focus on writing and communication that Hamilton, weaves throughout their curriculum and throughout their, programs here. Similarly, I also was drawn to the open curriculum, as I always sort of found that my favorite classes in high school were the classes that I was able to perform the best in and be the best version of myself. And I think, being able to be surrounded by students who also felt that way in their classes was a really exciting prospect for me. And I think that is something that's definitely rung true and continued to be something that has been one of my favorite parts about being here.
Yeah, and as someone from New York City, I definitely wanted that lifestyle where I was away from the city and something that's very like away from all the busy life and just sort of have a slow pace sort of lifestyle and also be close to nature. So I love the trees and just the big windows that we have here in our dorms, and also just being close to like opportunities outdoors, and which I wouldn't have had if I had stayed like in the city, for example.
Yeah, I would definitely echo a lot of the same sentiments. But I also think that one thing that really drew me to Hamilton was the fact that everybody here is residential for all 4 years. So that was something that I really, I guess I didn't put too much thought into during my initial search process, but it really seemed so cool to me that everyone was on campus for all 4 years and no one lives off campus or anything like that. So kind of in my conversations with current students, I guess like during my time during the college search process, kind of hearing that the community is very vibrant at all times of the day because people are here all the time and people are very eager to do their extracurriculars and have a lot of things happening even after class time. That's all kind of made possible because everyone is literally like 5-10 minutes away, like a 5-minute walk away from where you would be. So I think that was definitely one of the biggest parts as well.
Yeah, it creates that neighborly feel on campus, a lot of smiling faces as you walk from place to place. Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the first year experience. So, what some of our potential audience members might expect next year. And would you mind talking a little bit about how did you find community and meet other students, especially as you first arrived on campus? And whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I can start. I think one of the biggest parts of our first year experience that really sets the stage for the way that, our community is and some of the things that you can expect from our surrounding area is our new student orientation programs. I also forgot to mention in the beginning that I am a new student orientation leader as well as Betsy and Bowman both are. And I think that's been a really big part of my experience and has definitely been one of my favorite traditions and favorite things about Hamilton is the way in which every first year student participates in an off-campus orientation trip that in some way, shape, or form kind of integrates them into the surrounding community and surrounding area, whether that's hiking the Adirondacks or learning about local art in Clinton and the Hudson Valley and the greater Utica area or doing service in the local area as well. So that's something that I think is a big part of how you can begin to find community and begin to find support here on campus. So although our version of that orientation was a little bit limited during COVID, it is since back to its fullest extent. And I think just being able to have, it's about 6 to 9 other students on your trips that are all from different areas on campus is a great way to integrate you with different people that don't live near you or might not be in your classes, but are end up being a great source of support and friendship for a lot of people. So I would say that's definitely a big part of the first year experience.
Yeah, just kind of echoing off of that, another shameless plug for first year orientation programs. But I think the orientation program really speaks to what we do at Hamilton. So the first person that you're probably going to meet at Hamilton is your roommate, right after you drive up the hill and start moving in. And then, like Sophia mentioned, you're going to go meet your orientation group, your leaders who are upperclassmen, and kind of know the reins a little bit. And then you go on these awesome trips, you make really, really great friends. And then by the time you come back, your roommate has also been on a trip and they have friends that they want you to meet. And then, your friend might have known someone from high school and you meet them. So I think it really is a lot of like a tree branch effect where you start with one group and then you just keep branching. And it's nice because that group is pretty much given to you right off the bat. That being said, you're going to meet people that first week in classes. You're going to have that person in your math class that's like your math buddy for the next 4 years. You're going to have people in different clubs, different teams, a bunch of different groups on campus that you'll meet through, club fair and things like that. And then we just have a lot of experiences that are open to specifically first years. And those are run by, I believe they're called first year, like course leader, something like that. I don't know exactly what they're called, but they're like first year experience mentors, and their job on campus is to just plan fun events for the first years. And I think those are another great way just to kind of step out into the Hamilton world and start meeting people. So right off the bat in that first, spanning from the first day to the first week, you already have plenty of opportunities to meet people.
Yeah, kind of similar to what Betsy and Sophia said. I think the process is very natural and organic too. You'll kind of see when you get here, kind of what Betsy was talking about, how your roommate will know someone, and then your group will know someone, and then it's very natural and organic in that way. And I also think a great thing about all of the incoming classes is that everybody's so eager to really become engaged and kind of just start with college right away. It's very exciting, and there's a lot of new opportunities. So I feel like that kind of general atmosphere is always very great to see, because every student is kind of willing to come out of their comfort zone and kind of reach out and talk, especially in the first couple of months that everyone's here. So I feel like that process is obviously very daunting because it's a new experience and a new environment that you're entering. But in general, I would say with the resources that we provide in terms of orientation and also first year experiences and also kind of just the natural flow of the campus, I feel like everything kind of works into place in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like everyone captured it perfectly. I'll just add this one little bit. I also think that something that about Hamilton community is upperclassmen are always willing to engage with like freshmen and sophomores, because we know like you guys are new and fresh. So like we want to support you, and especially in clubs. Some of my, close relationships with upperclassmen who just like really invited me to their spaces or like their dorms, and we'll like have events or they plan like fun activities for us to do. So I think that's something special about Hamilton itself.
Absolutely. And you also want to pay it forward as now a senior to those first years coming in, as you had that experience from your seniors yourself. So it's a lot of a cycle of giving back to new students. Awesome. Maybe we can shift gears a little bit to some of the questions that we've gotten from the chat, and maybe we can talk a little bit about our surrounding area, particularly the nearby communities of Clinton, New Hartford, upstate New York in general, and maybe some favorite spots off campus and in the surrounding area.
Yeah, I'll start again, I guess. I think, if we're talking about the surrounding area, I definitely have really grown to love and appreciate living in Clinton, and it's kind of hard to believe that I'm just not gonna, be in this place next year. And I think something that one of the admissions officers always says is that, Clinton wouldn't be the same without Hamilton, and Hamilton wouldn't be the same without Clinton. And I think you can really feel that. They've both, existed here for so long. And I think that you can feel that in the local businesses and in the way in which our school interacts with the local community. But yeah, like I think also I like to sort of demystify the fact that there's like nothing to do in this area. And I think there's, kind of like what Joe said as well, there's a lot of value in being so near really beautiful places, being near the outdoors. Like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of some things. Next week, I'll be traveling to the Adirondacks to watch the total solar eclipse. And I think a lot of people on campus are planning on doing that. And what a unique opportunity to be able to be so close to that mountain range and, see something as cool as that. And I'm also going to be going to a hockey game at the Utica Comets Arena, but I'm going to be watching the national U.S. women's hockey team play the Canada national hockey team. So, there's things to do, and it's really exciting. So I would can pass it off to someone, but I just like to share that there's definitely always things happening in the local area.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Oh.
sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bubba. You got it.
That's good. Thank you. I totally agree with Sophia. I think also kind of the places that we have around our campus and kind of Clinton in itself, we have so many great places. We have obviously the city of Utica, which is about 20 minutes away from campus, and Utica is just very rich and vibrant with history. And there's just so many great things to do there as well. And about like 40 minutes away, I would say, is Syracuse as well. And obviously Syracuse is kind of a bigger city as well, and there's so many things to do there as well. So I think there's kind of the sense of like the best of all worlds in a way, because for students who are looking for kind of a more natured, I guess, nature centered kind of experience with college, I think this place is perfect. But there's also so many great things as well in terms of wanting to go to cool restaurants or art or entertainment or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna plug Utica and then just say that it's a growing like affluent immigrant community, and so there's a lot of like ethnic restaurants. For example, I just keep thinking of Zayna. Zayna's like a great restaurant. It's like hidden, and like the thing about Utica is you have to find these restaurants. It's also like a nice fun activity for you to do with your friends and like go out and actually explore and see what's good there.
Yeah, I just have two things to add. The first one is that I think there's a lot of interaction between the people who live in Clinton and the people who live on the Hill. And that's another big one I would emphasize. So I know we have a ton of students and different guest speakers and people who come up the hill to present. We have students who come up the hill to be tutored, all those kinds of things. Those are just a couple examples. So we have a lot of interaction with people from in town, and then we also go down into town. So like right now, I'm working on my senior thesis at Clinton High School and Clinton Middle School. And I think those are really unique opportunities that we have because A, we do live in such a small town, and B, those relationships have really been fostered for such a long time. The one other thing that I would add is that we do have a transportation service called the Jitney, which I'm sure if you've been to an information session you've heard about before. But basically that's a really nice chance to be able to get off campus into Clinton, New Hartford, Utica, if you don't have a car on campus, which our first year students don't. So there's free transportation that runs kind of on a loop schedule. So if you don't, have an upperclassman who can take you where you want to go, or a friend with a car, that's a great resource, and oftentimes very well utilized. So transportation is definitely not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's available to all students, regardless of what class year that you're in. So it makes getting around pretty easy. I'm pretty partial to Utica Coffee, local coffee brand. I'm a big coffee drinker myself. Corner store of the Clinton main strip is the Utica Coffee store. So it's definitely very popular. I do want to bring it back up to campus though and talk a little bit about campus and particularly like what kind of things students do for fun on campus. Maybe some frequent traditions. If anyone wants to talk a little bit about Greek life, I know there was a question in the chat, but on-campus events and life on the Hill.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I think the school in general just does a really great job of having so many different types of events literally every weekend or every week throughout the week. A lot of school sponsored events. I think the great part about that is that there is such a wide variety of different just events that the school hosts. So really anything that you would be interested in, you're able to really go to. There's a lot of different kind of like, for example, there's kind of like mug painting, is I think an event that happened like last week, I'm pretty sure. But there's also a lot of cool things like there's a pub on campus, and sometimes the pub will host some events as well, and it will be themed, and everyone will kind of dress up and go there. There's trivia every week, and I know that's a humongous deal for a lot of students here on campus. Everyone has their team for the semester, and they kind of compete, I guess, and kind of have fun with that. And that's a really cool way that people are connected on campus. Um, but overall, I think also in terms of like extracurriculars, I think the groups and the clubs that you join really end up becoming kind of like a second family on campus. You really get to spend a lot of time with them. And I feel like just doing activities that you're all really passionate about, whether it's something that you've done for a while in your life or it's something new you're trying out, kind of that common kind of goal of having fun really connects you. And there's a lot of fun in that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of organizations and clubs that also like host events. I work with the Culture Center on campus called Days My Soul Center, and I'm run one of the orgs called Center for Intersectional Feminism. And one of the events that we had last semester was drag trivia. So we had performers, we collaborated with the trivia team. A lot of people had a lot of fun. I know the Black and Latino Student Union, for example, are going to host like a blog party soon, and so that that just brings energy, food, and I don't know, it just brings a lot of different people together to have fun. Just have fun, really general, and that's all we're here for.
Yeah, I think I would also just sort of echo what everyone's been saying about campus life and how there's always like I love to always complain about how many emails I have, but it really is a blessing that there's always, my inbox is constantly full of different things that I can be doing on campus throughout the week, not just on the weekends either. It really is, things like concerts, presentations, like DIY activities, different like ways of gathering in terms of like clubs and organizations. I think it's great too that, of course you can be a really loyal member of certain clubs and always go to certain things, but those organizations are always going to be open to also having new members all the time, regardless of the time of year. So I think that's also really exciting. I can also, talk a little bit briefly about Greek life. I am a member of a sorority here, on campus. And, you know, I think there's about 60 of us in the chapter. It's a pretty small presence on campus, but it is there for students who are interested in finding an additional community. And there's no residential housing that has, you know, that's affiliated with Greek life. So all students, you know, still live in dorms. They don't live in any like frat houses or things like that. So I think that for me, it's been a really positive experience in terms of helping me find, you know, people that I might not have talked to, and finding people to, you know, just have an additional community space, but it's also not a dominating presence on campus, I would say.
Yeah, I would definitely echo a lot of what Sophia said just about the relationship with students in Greek life. I'm someone who's actually not a part of any of our Greek organizations, but I absolutely have friends who are. I've been to events that are sponsored by those groups. And I think it's great because they have a lot of presence just among everyone on campus. So it's something, again, you can participate in if you want to, you don't have to. And as someone who's not in Greek life, I can absolutely say that you can still have a social life without being a part of an organization. For me, my kind of go-to group has been my team. But similar to Greek life, you don't have to be on a team to have a social life. And I think just kind of the openness of all of the different events that are hosted and social things that go on, the openness of those really speaks to what we say when we say Hamilton's a really welcoming place. So you don't have to be a part of them to you know, be a part of the events that they host. And you also don't have to go to events if you don't want to. So there's a lot of option there, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And those events being open to the whole community, like you said, Betsy, is just a really great way to meet new people and to do some fun things around campus. We've talked a lot about like the Hamilton student experience, meeting new people, being involved on campus. I want to talk a little bit about the residential experience. Maybe talk a little bit about some of our residential halls, particularly. I know it gets pretty cold here in the winters. Is everybody staying warm, particularly during these cold months?
I would definitely love to talk about residence halls. I've had an awesome housing experience here at Hamilton so far. Typically all of our first years live in first year housing. So it's nice that you're only with people in your class. I think that's another really great way to meet people, whether it's in the bathroom brushing your teeth or, you know, your door's open one day and people are kind of out and about. So first year housing, I think, is great just to live with your class. And then once you're in your sophomore, junior, senior year, you have a little bit more freedom with that. So you get to choose who your roommates are, if you have any, where on campus you're living. Some people prefer, you know, rooms with a lot more natural light, like I know we can see in Sophia and Joe's screens. But I think overall, most of our spaces on campus are absolutely beautiful. Different, you know, distances from like academic buildings, athletic facilities. So that's something a lot of people like to consider. But we do have residential spaces kind of on both sides of campus. So everyone has a dining hall right near them, some sort of academic building, which I think is great. And then in terms of staying warm, it definitely does get cold here. We do have heating in our dorms. We don't have air conditioning, but honestly, I don't think we're really at Hamilton long enough in May or early enough in August to have too much of a problem with that. Other than maybe that first week being a little toasty, you'll be totally fine with a fan. And then maybe some extra blankets in the winter, crank the heat up a little bit. But overall, staying warm and cool is definitely possible.
Yeah, I would definitely, you know, echo that as well, that like I remember being concerned about air conditioning as well, and it really is just simply not like that you know, much of an issue in any way because we are here for such a limited period in the summer. I even stayed here over the summer to work one summer and I was fine. So I also just would like, you know, I love living on campus all 4 years, like what Bobin mentioned earlier. I knew a senior last year who, when asked like what their favorite thing about Hamilton was that he said that it was because they required living on campus all 4 years. And, you know, although maybe that's not quite my favorite thing, I think it really is a testament to how positive that experience is for students and the community that it creates. I have such positive and like very specific experiences and nostalgia for all of the places I've lived on campus. And have, you know, grown to love all of them in different ways. I'm really grateful for where I live right now. I have my own room, but also am in a suite type situation with my 5 closest friends. And we have a kitchen and a little living common room, which is probably one of my favorite places to just be on campus, is in that common room surrounded by my friends, looking out onto, you know, the nice green grass. So I don't know, I'd love living here. So yeah.
Yeah, you also have residential advisors living with you, so you can always reach out to them if you have issues or concerns or anything also. And in general, they also host events, for example, for like their residents to participate in. So that's another opportunity for you to meet with who you're living with as a first year. So yeah, just wanted to mention that real quickly.
Yeah, and then another cool thing is that there are actually kind of like special interest residential halls as well. So I think that's something that's really cool that we have and we offer here at Hamilton, where there will be certain kind of either like a floor on in a residential hall or kind of some of the smaller residence halls, like kind of the houses, will have kind of like a special interest kind of theme. So I know last year that there was a gaming house, and I'm not sure if it's still around, but every year students kind of sign up for kind of the things that they might be interested in and want to create a community of. So that's definitely another great option as well in terms of resident, just like living here at Hamilton, where there are special interests kind of communities where people are able to join and live together kind of with a common goal or kind of just like a common hobby. So yeah.
And it's a great way to meet new people with similar interests. So if you're interested in that, that's definitely something to keep in mind. I do also want to talk a little bit about dining halls. The other side of the residential experience is how's the food? So any favorite meals? Is the food good? Do you enjoy the dining halls?
I'm personally a huge fan of the dining halls. I think for the size of our campus, I feel like there's a lot of options to eat, which I feel very fortunate about. And you're able to check the menu online every day. So every place has a different kind of menu and kind of vibe. So really depending on what you're looking for that day, I feel like it's kind of fun to just like go on the website or go on the app and see kind of what you want to eat. I think kind of a fan favorite spot on campus for people is the diner. So we have this pretty cool diner that's open from like 9 a.m. in the morning to midnight most days. And then on the weekends is open until like 3 a.m. as well. So I think that place is really cool because there's an actual kind of like 1950s diner kind of atmosphere to it. There's booths and stuff, and you can play music. And yeah, I feel like also dining halls are just a great way to see the people that you're going to see every day. And it's just a lot of fun to run into people. You're always going to run into someone you know. So that's kind of a fun part of that.
Yeah, I mean, just echo that I've had a positive experience with the food as well. I think there's always going to be something that you want to eat, you know, it's like there's always going to be the basic options, especially at our largest dining hall commons and also at our second largest one, McEwen. There's always going to be a salad bar, pizza, pasta, you know, different like rice, beans, fruit, yogurt, like all. I know that that sounds silly to list all of those things, but I think that's something that's just nice to know that you always have like things to fall back on if you don't love what they're serving that day. But I really have loved that, and having the flexibility to also like create your own thing has been really great. And yeah, totally is a very social place as well, which I think can be fun.
Yeah, I personally come from a family that like overly seasons their food, and so I will say that sometimes like I will bring my own seasoning, and that's totally fine. It doesn't mean like the food is bad or anything. It just means like personally, like I love to add some hot sauce, or I love to just like add a little bit of tang to it. But I will say like the food is totally fine. It's not like awful or anything.
Yeah, I would also just say, in terms of like dietary restrictions, the people I know who have allergies or are vegetarians, vegans, whatever, your deal is with food, it's definitely able to be accommodated here. I think, Sophia mentioned the part of the dining hall where you can make your own food. I think that's great. But just in general, there are a ton of signs and little like keys that you can learn that are pretty much written on all of the menus. And those are both on the app and when you walk into the dining hall right there. So you can see, if it has like the gluten-free symbol, then you can eat it or whatever. So I think that's just in terms of like communication, something that's definitely big here. And I don't know anyone who's had a problem with any dietary restriction.
Yeah, absolutely. And the dining, the people who support our dining staff are really great about working with students individually. And I remember my time as a student athlete, there was always access to protein. So that was something that was really great, I think, for those dinners. I do want to stay on campus, but shift to, the other part of life as a student, which is the classroom perspective. And maybe if we want to talk a little bit about your relationships with professors and particularly chances that you've had to build relationships with professors over the years.
Yeah, I guess I can start this one off. I've had great experiences with all of the professors I've worked with here. Obviously, you get closer with some more than others. You have your academic advisor, who's a great resource, someone who, if you really click with them, maybe that's someone that you go to with a lot of other questions. Maybe there's someone in the same department, but a different professor that you click with a little bit more. That was kind of my case, just because I had an advisor who retired and then, was kind of scrambled about, but I found someone my sophomore year who I really felt like I could rely on to answer questions, give me advice, things like that. And so he's the professor who I go to with questions. And I think that's kind of a general idea that if you have questions, anyone's willing to answer them. I also think that's how they get to know you. I think pretty much every professor I've had here, whether it's an 8-person class or a 40-person class, has been really excited to get to know me, both as a student in the classroom, but also, what I'm up to extracurricularly, how my meet went this weekend, things like that. Those are always questions that I'm being asked. And I think that really speaks to the level of care that the professors have, A, for their jobs, but B, for their students.
Yeah, something like I always like to kind of mention to people when I'm talking about Hamilton is that in my personal experience, I feel like the professors wouldn't work here unless they wanted to interact with us and wanted to interact with the students. And that really shines through in kind of the interactions we have, kind of with what Betsy was talking about. Um, I think that professors are more than eager and always want to interact with students. I feel like in most departments or for most professors, they kind of have this open door policy where a lot of their offices are in spaces that we study in. So it's kind of convenient where you can just go down the hall and find them. And most of the time, the policy is like if their door is open and they're in there, they are saying anyone's more than welcome to come in if they have a question about the class or anything like that, or if they just want to talk. So kind of that, I think that openness that professors show really is appreciated by the students and is definitely something that we try to take advantage of in terms of kind of getting help or creating a relationship with them. So yeah.
Yeah, I have a fun story. So this is like the very much like nerdy side of me. My friends and I, we made a club on campus called Pokemon Go. And it was a lot of fun. And we made a group me, and in that group me, we had professors and staff members who would join in. And I remember Professor Chan from the biology department would always join us with his kid. And so not only are they engaging with us like academically, but also socially as we're going about and having fun. So it was a really fun time.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what everyone was kind of saying about professors and their openness and their support in all areas of your life, I would say. And I think that also extends to just like faculty here in general, faculty and staff. Like some of the greatest relationships I have with adults on campus are with my professors, yes, but are also with, some of my previous work supervisors or my current colleagues right now in the admissions office or, just those other types of, mentors and staff that work here too. They're also a really big part of the system of support that I think I feel really grateful for. And yeah, I just like to mention that as well. I think also just that something about professors too is that they're always going to, value your opinion in classroom discussions and in, of the learning process as if it's equally as important as their opinion, because it is. And I think that's something that I've really appreciated, is like seeing they're interested in seeing how they can learn from you as well. So I think that's something that I've noticed in a lot of my experiences, is professors genuinely asking our opinion or asking about, what we think about a certain like current event that might be happening. I think that's also something that's been really refreshing.
Yeah, and that welcoming attitude that students have for one another across campus isn't just limited to students, of course, but it's also found, as Sophia mentioned, with our faculty and our amazing staff, obviously. I also want to talk a little bit about research and internship opportunities, maybe that people have had the chance to take part in, either working alongside professors or in the local area, or even in across the country.
Yeah, I can also talk about this a little bit. I think, like I mentioned, like I've definitely been really grateful to have work experience provided to me, by Hamilton, and take advantage of jobs such as this one that we're doing right now. I think I've learned a lot from my time in the admissions office. And, of course, I've learned about the admission process, but I've also just learned how to kind of be um a human a little bit, and like how to present and how to, communicate effectively, how to write good emails, like things like that will help you in kind of any type of job that you might want to look at. I stayed over the summer here once, and I worked as an intern for our orientation program. So that was another thing that I did because of Hamilton. And then this past summer, I worked as a senior admission fellow. So I do think that those on-campus jobs have really provided me with really great experiences that I think will follow me into my post-grad life. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say very similar things about on-campus jobs. I've also had great experiences, and I've always been ready to work, and those opportunities have always been there for me. So I think, you're able to get an on-campus job if that's something that you're looking for here. Also kind of in terms of research, I think those are great opportunities, whether they're paid, whether they're for credit, whether, it's just volunteer, whatever it is. I think there are great opportunities in every department. My research experiences here have pretty much come from walking up to a professor at the end of class and saying, hey, I'm interested in research. What are you up to? What can I get involved in? And all of those conversations have been really fruitful, and oftentimes given me choices of what I want to work on. So those are great as well. And then the one other thing I would say is a plug for our career center. I've worked with my career advisor pretty closely during my time here. Something with us just kind of clicked, and she's been a really great mentor for me. So she was someone who encouraged me, when I hadn't yet had a summer experience that was related to a potential career. I had the chance to drive across the country with my sister, and she said, do it. It doesn't have to be related to a career. It doesn't have to be something that, other students are doing, but you should totally do it. So that was kind of the push into the deep end that I needed. And I ended up learning a lot from that summer experience. And then I came back this past summer and taught at a boarding school in Massachusetts for the summer with some other great interns. And that was something a little bit more career related, but something that, I wouldn't have been ready for that summer before. So I think timing worked out great. The advice I was given was great. And you eventually sit down with someone who's just trying to help you figure out your future and know that they're in it with you. And they're excited to see what you're going to be up to after graduation and during your time at Hamilton. So I think that's just another really great resource in terms of on-campus jobs, internships, post-college jobs, all that kind of stuff. The Career Center is great.
Yeah, this past summer, I interned with the New York State Human Rights Division, and it was a non-paid internship. So as someone from a low-income family, that was a big concern, but Hamilton thankfully they were able to financially support me. And so don't think that you have to turn down an opportunity because they're not paying you, or like definitely reach out to Hamilton. Hamilton will try to help you out with anything.
Yeah, and then I guess kind of what I want to add to this is I think Hamilton's really cool in the sense that there's a lot of like career related opportunities that aren't even necessarily kind of in a job or internship setting. So Betsy and I actually took the same class last year. It was called Education Practicum. And in this class, we were required to do field work at some of the local schools here in the local kind of upstate New York area. And we had to do kind of like 50, I think it was 50 hours of field work where we would kind of go and observe and kind of help out in the classroom setting. And as I guess two people who are interested in kind of education as a possible career path, that was such a cool, like such a super cool opportunity because it was an opportunity given through the school by the professors, because the professors have connections with the administrators around in the area. So just even having that opportunity through a class setting and just being able to do that was really awesome as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for sharing those. I do want to turn to our Q&A and answer some questions from the chat that we've been seeing pop up here a little bit. First question for you all is maybe if you wanted to get a little into the nitty gritty of how to register for classes and what that process looks like, especially as you're coming in as a first year, but then how easy or difficult is it to navigate as you progress through years in Hamilton?
Yeah, I can start us off on this one. I've had great luck, I guess I could say, with selecting classes. I think there have been times, so typically at Hamilton, when class registration is kind of starting to roll around, everyone gets a time, and that's by grade. So the seniors register first, then the juniors, the sophomores, and the first years. So I've had times when I've sat down in front of my computer and felt really defeated by the time that I've seen on my computer. I've had other times when I've been on top of the world. But I think the moral of the story is in both of those situations, I've almost always ended up getting the classes that I want, and I've always ended up getting the classes that I need. So I know like the environmental studies department right now has a lot more majors than they ever had and a lot more people interested in taking those 100 and 200 level classes. So if you're a major who's declared, you'll be able to pre-register for those classes. So getting into something to fulfill a major requirement is not a problem. And then if it's something that I'm just interested in and, maybe the class is full or I'm anticipating the class being full, oftentimes that's just a matter of an email to a professor, maybe a sit down conversation if they really want to hear from you, and why you're interested in the class. But even in those situations, I've been able to get into the class either that semester or the following. So I think it's really like a lot of things at Hamilton, I think it's just a matter of communication and figuring out how you're going to make something work and how badly you do want to take that class. If it's something that, you're willing to brush off for maybe a second choice, that's great. If not, there's an opportunity to get into it. So I think overall, the class registration process, even though it may not feel seamless in the moment, is something that oftentimes ends up working out.
I do think that sums it up very nicely, Betsy. So thank you. Keeping with the trend of our Q&A questions, abroad and abroad experiences, either that you all have taken part in or maybe someone that you know have taken a part of, and how was your experiences?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this. I went abroad in my fall semester of my junior year. I went and took advantage of one of our 100 plus pre-approved programs that are not through Hamilton, facilities or organizations, but are instead have been, looked at by the study abroad office and deemed to be good for credit. I think the previous semester, all I had to do was just meet with a study abroad advisor to make sure that I had all my credits in place. I had to make sure that, everything was set up, but they made it so easy for me to make sure that all those things would work out and that I wouldn't be behind on anything. And I think sometimes that decision about whether or not to go in the fall or the spring or what semester to go in could depend on your you know, when classes might be offered or where you are in your major requirements. But yeah, for me, I guess I didn't even say this. I went to the Czech Republic. I lived in Prague by myself in an apartment, but I was, you know, very close and connected with a lot of other people in my program. And you know, something I like to say about that experience too is that I didn't take a language here at Hamilton and thought that that might limit me in terms of my choices to go abroad, and it certainly didn't. I was able to take Czech there, but then I also have friends whose experiences have heavily revolved around language. And so I think, you know, some of my favorite, I loved hearing about friends who did the Spain programs that Hamilton has or did the France programs that we have, and coming back, being able to speak fluently, I think has been a really amazing experience for them as well. So yeah, that's just a little bit about abroad.
Yeah, similarly, kind of on a similar note, I also went abroad the fall of my junior year. Also a great experience. I was in Southern Patagonia for the 3 months. So I spent most of my time in Chile, but also had a chance to go to Argentina. One of the main reasons I chose my program was because there was a heavy research component. So I knew I wanted to be living with the people I was going to classes with. So I didn't have kind of the typical study abroad experience, I don't think. So I was living with all of those people, taking classes with them, traveling with them. And at the end of our semester, after 2 months of classes, we took our finals pretty much beginning of November, and spent the last month and a half working on a directed research project. So that's something that I kind of took away from that program as something I have to show of my research experience, which was really important for me. And the one other thing I'll say about that is mine was a little bit more reliant on language compared to Sophia's. So I was speaking Spanish a lot, although my classes were in English. So that was another kind of pro for me. And I actually came back to Hamilton with an extra half credit, so I wasn't behind at all. I came in, you know, more prepared, I guess, to graduate, you could say. But that was something that worked out really well and is something that I kind of planned out with a study abroad advisor here on campus. So before you even get on a plane, you know that your credits are going to transfer. And when you come back, everything will still be smooth and ready for graduation.
Yeah, I could give some input as somebody who actually didn't go abroad. And I think the cool thing about Hamilton is I feel like there isn't necessarily a pressure to go abroad, although I think about around 60% of the students do go abroad, and it's an amazing opportunity. However, I think the semester where I feel like most of my friends went abroad, it was also it was still a pretty cool experience to be on campus and kind of get to know more people here, kind of get to know the people that I wasn't necessarily as close with before, whether that be people who also didn't go abroad or people in different grades and stuff. So I feel like um, I guess the thing I'm trying to say is there's absolutely no pressure in terms of having to go abroad, because sometimes that's just not a decision that you necessarily I guess want to make in terms of doing it. However, if you do want to do it, the resources here are so plentiful. Like Sophia mentioned, there's like 100 different pre-approved programs. So there's quite literally, you could quite literally go to any single place you want to go to. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. We're just about at the end of our time. Unfortunately, we didn't get to everybody's questions, but I do want to close on one final question for our senior fellow panelists. What advice would you give to an incoming first year at Hamilton? Think back to 4 short years ago as you were starting to arrive at Hamilton. What are some things that you wish you knew before you started?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question to end on. Something I would say, especially, you know, being at a school where relationships really do matter, and, you know, you're always up a grade, in a way, is just once you think you found, you know, your closest friends, I would say keep them close and then keep branching out. I think there's a lot to be said for knowing so many people in your grade, especially, you know, the four of us now as seniors can say it's really fun when you go to a senior event and you feel like you know so many people there. It's also really fun just to be able to cheer on so many friends, so many acquaintances, classmates, whatever, in both the classroom and outside of the classroom. So I would just say keep branching out. Even if, you're a sophomore and things are great, like keep it going. Because I really do think there are way more people on campus to meet and get to know than I still even understand, even being in such a small community.
Yeah, I think I would echo that kind of mindset of like always staying open to things. And just reminding yourself that like things can always change, and that you can always, it's never too late to like change what you think you might want to do or change what you do on campus. I've fluctuated through different clubs and organizations. I began doing certain things that I'm not doing anymore. And I can still be simultaneously really grateful for those experiences, but also ready to move on to something different and realized, what I wanted to spend my time doing instead. So I think just keeping that open mind and keeping, having faith in the fact that things will change, my major changed or what I thought my major was going to be changed. It's all going to change even if you think you have it figured out, which I think should be framed as something that's like exciting. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess if I could speak to like freshman Joanna, I would definitely tell her that like I know imposter syndrome hits so hard, but like you're brilliant, you're capable, and that speaks to every one of you, and that you were admitted for a reason, and it's because we believe in you and we saw your potential. So don't let that discourage you and just keep pushing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of on a similar note, I would say I think that Hamilton in my 4 years, I felt like it's a very judgment-free zone in terms of kind of the things that you're involved in or the things you want to be involved in. Everybody is so multifaceted here. And I feel like you'll just meet somebody who has a really cool major and they're also doing this and also doing that. And I feel like there's not really one type of Hamilton student really. Everyone really has their own separate interests and they're very passionate about it and open about it. And I feel like people really love that about Hamilton and people are very supportive of that. I know for me, like I'm a part of a cappella, for example, and some of my friends who are not interested in terms of like music or anything at all still come to every single one of my concerts because they just want to support me. So I guess the moral of the story is just like do what excites you and do what you want to do. And there's always going to be support on this campus for that. There's never going to be any judgment about anything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do the things that you're passionate about. You meet other people that are passionate about it. You've immediately got something in common. It's a great way to meet new people. That's all the time that we have for tonight. Thank you for your questions, and we hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. If you didn't have the chance to have your question answered tonight, please join the Accepted Student Network, the Celebrate Thyself Accepted Student Network. Our senior panelists are a part of that network, and they would be happy to field any questions directly through the Celebrate Thyself Accepted Student Network. So please log on and ask questions through there. As mentioned at the top of the hour, this is the first of many virtual events throughout the spring that will be discussing various aspects about life at Hamilton to celebrate your decision and to learn more from students, professors, and staff members about the Hamilton experience and what experiences could be on campus if you choose to attend. That's all we have for tonight, though. Thank you all for attending and have a great rest of your night. Take care.